Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 26th November 2016. Let us start with the Indian Express. The first article on the editorial page is about permanent revolution. Here it is a bit sarcastically written article about the ongoing monetization drive. We have seen the monetization benefits and losses only from the economic perspective. Then what about the citizens' freedoms and the rights perspective of to this? I always discuss to the citizens this way. In a democracy, the state and citizen, their interaction has to be in such a way that the citizen shall enjoy the maximal freedoms. And second is, the state's authority need to be constrained in a constitutional framework. So, the power of the state and its institutions shall be subjected to the scrutiny by the citizens. So now if we see the demonetization drive, it has clearly imposed the restrictions on withdrawals, and also it is deciding on how the citizens have to use their own money. So to that extent the freedoms of the citizens have been curtailed and the sphere of the state action is increasing. So every day you can see Mr. Shashikant Das coming onto the TV and giving hundreds of rules how you shall use one's money. So that itself is a clear expression of the limiting of the freedoms and expansion of the states. So the expansion of the state invariably curtails the freedoms of the citizens in the long run. So from political or freedoms dimension, rights dimension, the demonetization has changed how the India operates itself permanently. That is what is the author talks about. And coming to the constitutional test, here we need to understand the constitutional morality. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has repeatedly used this word constitutional morality. What does that mean? We need to respect the constitution. It has to guide our every action, decision, and way of life. If we want to go for a grievance redressal, if we like to criticize the government, if government has to address the needs of the people, for everything constitutional means is mandatory and we need to uphold the same. That is what is called constitutional morality. Now if you take about the neoliberal politics, what I mean is market economy and operation of the competitive capitalism, all these have raised the inequalities. But the constitutional morality mandates for economic and social equality. And casteism, majoritarianism, these are leading to social inequalities getting widened further and further. So the constitutional morality prescribed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is losing its sheen now in India, according to this article by Mr. Raja. House truths. Again, remember this statement. In a democracy, institutions are pivotal and most important, and the democracy stands on the strength of these institutions. These are like the pillars of democracy. In this case, the parliament as an institution is the citadel of the public opinion, and the opposition has to play an equal role as like the government. So the government has to take its time to answer to the questions of the opposition. So stonewalling the parliament, it means that not answering and labeling the opposition leaders as corrupt, or else the people supporting the black money and putting their arguments in anti-national narrative, all this kills the rational debate in the country. So, any decision it might be taken in a good spirit. Also, it has to be substantiated with a good argument. Now, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh era. So, whatever he said yesterday in the parliament, it has a significant message. It's a monumental mismanagement. It is a significant message. The government can answer this and rectify its mistakes rather than exposing or asking him to see his back. Now, nowhere people, this is about the Rohingyas. Now, neither the Bangladesh nor the Myanmar expects or else wants the Rohingyas. These are the stateless citizens. It means the people who do not have the country of their own. So, in this case, these are also called boat people, means unable to face the persecution in Myanmar, they are moving across the seashores and they are getting drowned in the Indian Ocean. Now, if you see this Bangladesh and Myanmar are a geographical continuity, and Myanmar is ethnically a diverse nation. So, Myanmar do not recognize these Rohingyas of Rakhine state as its own people or as an ethnic tribe. So, in this context, they are the victims of the state persecution and also the Buddhist majority. Aung San Suu Kyi, who is the torchbearer of democracy in Myanmar is surprisingly silent about the status of the Rohingyas. Remember that any country to be stable economically and also politically, the respect towards the minorities and a due status and share in the political and economic power is essential. Now you have gone through Sri Lanka when the minorities are subjected to retribution and hardships, how the country has erupted itself into civil war. So, minorities and their rights need to be protected for the stability and the peace in the given society. It holds good for any society for that matter, either India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, or in the case of Myanmar. So, coming to this ideas page, the first article is related to the police reform. The Prime Minister Modi is in Hyderabad to attend this DGP's meet. Last year, the same thing has happened at Kutch in Gujarat. There, he made one statement. The societies remain peaceful inherently, not just because of policing. So he has said the social capital and the trust among the communities that plays a critical role in maintaining the peace and order and stability in the society. So in this case, the Prakash Singh, he talks about police reforms in India, and he also has given the report with regard to the police reforms. Now he has refers various committees over here. One is Soli Sorabji. He has given the Model Police Act, and the second is Supreme Court has given the directives, and added to that. We have the second ARC report on the public order with regard to police reforms. He has taken these reports in reference while arguing for his point of view. Now, the Prime Minister Modi, he has used the term the smart police. What according to the smart police he mean? The strict and sensitive, modern and mobile, accountable and alert, and then responsible and reliable, tech savvy and trained. So this smart police is a very long distant dream in India. So the basic unit of policing is a Thana or a police station. It's a dismal state in various rural areas in the country. And the second is, the police is a subject under the state list. So, during the Britishers' time, we have one act governing the entire police in different states, that is Indian Police Act 1861. Now, police becoming the state subject has led to different laws in different states. The crime at one place is not a crime in the other state. So, whatever be the case, the coordination between the police to fight the organized crime is a major challenge. So, the major recommendation brought in by the second ARC is to declare certain crimes as federal crimes and giving a federal agency to power to investigate these particular matters. But in this context, the state police may lose the this morality or else the incentive to investigate these cases. So let me say about the FBI in the United States of America, where we have this federal investigations or federal crimes being investigated by them. It has killed the motivation of the local police, and also there is a disruption between the local police and the federal police over there. And second is bringing the police under the concurrent list. It is against the spirit of the federalism. That's what the states argue. And going through separation of law and order from crime and investigation, if you see, the law and order management and crime investigation are two different subjects. At least the crime investigation can be totally away from the political interference. But however, in most of the states, the law and order and crime are clubbed in our police management. And police to people ratio in India is dismal and it is expected to be raised. And the new crimes such as cyber terrorism are growing, so we need to have a focus onto the same. So in this case, I want to talk about USA national doctrine. It clearly says that the peace and stability and order in the society are essential for sustaining the economic progress, and it is also necessary for successful foreign or external relations of a country. That's what is the central theme of the US national security doctrine. If you also say other way around, the regulatory administration, that is law and order administration and other regulatory administration, is very critical for the development administration to sustain. It means I am reframing this US national doctrine statement to the context of India. If India has to progress, we need to have a stable social and economic order that can be ensured through a proper law and order establishment. So that's what this article talks about. Coming to the editorial Hindu, appointing a Lokpal. Now, intentions shall be supported with strong institutions. Now, there is cleansing the Prime Minister is talking about on the economic front. What about on the in the public life? What about the strengthening of the institutions in public life to fight corruption and to increase the probity in public life? So, in this case, the last government has brought in the Lokpal, and though Lokpal law was passed in 2013, till now the institution was not created. And surprisingly, for the Lokpal movement by Anna Hazare, Bharat Janata Party is one of the supporters. So in these circumstances, the argument or the major block is a very simple event. That is to amend the Lokpal Act to define the leader of opposition as leader of the single largest party in or else other than the government, which is not in the government. So that amendment need to be brought in. But however, none of the government agencies are interested to take forward this move. So that's where the intentions of the Prime Minister are coming under suspicion, because the transparency move, especially the appointment of the Central Information Commissioner CVC, everything is getting delayed because these are the institutions which are central to the probity of life in this country. Now coming to leader of opposition. So a party which gets at least of the 10% of the seats in Lok Sabha is declared as opposition party, and its leader becomes the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. As Congress do not have these many seats, and there is no other party which has 10% of the seats, the opposition party do not exist. Now, this 10% of the seats, is there anywhere written in the constitution or in the law book? No, it is a tradition, a precedent. A speaker can recognize what is an opposition party, who is the leader of opposition. So in this context, 1977 law which determines the salaries, it clearly says that the largest party other than a participant in the government can be an opposition party, and it is only the speaker who has to recognize the leader of the opposition, that it will solve the issue. And the article also talks about the collegium appointment for Lokpal. A five-member body has to appoint the Lokpal, that is Chief Justice of India, Leader of Opposition, Prime Minister, the Speaker of Lok Sabha, plus an eminent jurist. This is what is the five-member committee which has to take forward the Lokpal. And the gathering crisis in Seoul. Now, the president of South Korea, Miss Park, she is in a corruption scandal. Now, here we need to understand how the big corporates are growing in Seoul. So, if you talk about South Korea, you remember about LG, Samsung, and Hyundai. Other than that, there are no big industrial conglomerates over there. So, the people feel that among these industrial conglomerates and politics of the day, there is a huge nexus, and this is leading to erosion of the public spirit. And the second thing is the crisis on the international front is also looming in South Korea, because in against to the threat of North Korea, South Korea has allowed for the installation of the third missiles, high altitude missiles of the United States in South Korea. So the China is opposing this move, and you know that Beijing is the largest trading partner of South Korea. And coming to North Korea, the relations are becoming more and more worse with Mr. Kim Jong-un in power. And United States, which was a strong ally, so now it clearly states that it don't want to invest in the security alliances under President Trump. So there is a crisis situation all around for South Korea, and economic slowdown is the important worrying factor over here. Now, how the South Korea as a nation was built, it itself is a motivating story for the people to read. How hardworking are South Koreans to make their country as a nation, so that itself is very much motivating for us to learn from. Now, coming to the notes, it's a permanent revolution. What did I say over here? In a democracy, the freedoms of the citizens need to be given due space. The state's power to the maximum extent has to be restricted to minimal. So, the demonetization effort is restricting the freedoms and enlarging the space of the state to operate with regard to day-to-day life of the citizens. The second is the constitutional test. It talks about what is meant by constitutional morality. And the growing inequalities, they go against the spirit of the constitutional morality that talks about social and economic equality. House truths. So the institutions need to be respected in India and in any democracy for that matter. The Prime Minister has to give his due time and respect towards the Parliament, which is the citadel of democracy. And police reforms, we need to build the smart police, and we have to create a police system that is people friendly, and systemic reforms are being suggested over here. Nuclear doctrine. Oh, sorry, I forgot to discuss this article. Now, let me explain about this. A nuclear doctrine will help us to understand what is a stated position of a country about the use of its nuclear weapons. And it also provides for an organizational system how the nuclear weapons will be deployed, command and control structure, and also how they have to be used for. So, in this context, India's nuclear doctrine clearly talks about no first use policy and no use policy against a non nuclear weapon nations which also do not possess chemical and other weapons of mass destruction. And our topic is about credible minimum deterrence. We are not going to stockpile the nuclear weapons madly, we are going to maintain a minimum number of weapons. And we talk about massive retaliatory effect, massive retaliatory attack, which causes unacceptable damage to the enemy. So, if I want to cause a massive retaliatory attack, first I shall survive the first attack. So, the survivability is important, and our system shall respond immediately and cause a maximum impact on the other country, the enemy country. So, that's where the nuclear triad comes into existence. It is our ability to launch the nuclear weapons from the surface, sea, and also from the sky. Now, recently we have seen as India is buying its new fighter jets from France. So, it has been clearly said that it is raising our ability to launch the nuclear weapons from the skies. So, in this scenario, survivability and then maximum retaliatory effects are necessary to support our no first use policy. There is no doubt about it. If it is abandoned, what will happen? So, India also shall get into the mad race of building the nuclear weapons, which will be detrimental to our economic growth. And the second thing is, if we use in the first instance, the nuclear weapons, there is no guarantee that we will not be facing the retaliatory attack from the enemy. And the third thing, now see, both the countries, they will have an incentive to give the preemptive attack. Now, we have stated our position that we don't use the weapons first. Now, we promise or we make a statement to use the weapons first. Then, there is an urge on both the sides who wants to use them first. So, it means it brings both the countries at the verge of the nuclear war. But however, nuclear doctrine needs revision from time to time as per the changing circumstances. But however, in India, the time is not mature to renounce its no first use policy, and it has served the India's interests well. So, appointing the Lokpal. So, the probity in public life is very much important, and institutions has to support this. In this context, building a Lokpal institution and establishing it as soon as possible is essential. So, these are the articles for today. Thank you very much and all the best.